my daisy, if dreams there be, sweet dreams to carry you back to me. I love you still, and I always will. So good night, my daisy.
Well, here we are again at another Marc and Chums. That's two in the space of 1 week, which I'm very thrilled about, especially this one. This is number 24 out of the series that we've been doing for 2 years nearly. And of course this time it's one of my dearest friends, and we've known each other a very long time. I'm sure that's going to come up in conversation, not only the fact that I've been his friend for a long time with his other half, and all our other friends as well. At one time I was his agent, and I cast him in several things many, many years ago. He is a celebrant. He's also somebody who has been well known for doing panto for many years. We'll talk about that as well. And of course it is the most wonderful, talented friend of mine, David Rumelle. Hello, David.
Hello, dear.
Dame Trot on the mug then?
Yes, this was my little present for Bognor Regis.
Bognor. Yeah.
Panto in 2021, the first panto after lockdown.
Really? Was that the first? I mean, so you've been doing panto, I mentioned in my introduction, you've been doing panto how many years this year?
Well, I mean, I started panto in 92 after I left drama school, and I started off as villain. And I thought that's the way things were going to go. I did Sheriff of Nottingham at Gray's for a wonderful actor-manager, Alexander Bridge, who gave me a brilliant start in the business. I'd only been out of drama school a month. Dear Barry Stacey rang me up and said, there's a name from the past. He said, I've got your first job, daughter. And next thing, there I was in Chesterfield doing Murder Has Been Arranged, followed by the old-time musical in Bognor Regis, followed by Christmas Carol, short tour. I mean, you imagine doing Christmas Carol in Bognor in October. And then Robin Hood in Thameside Theatre Grays. And that was just a month after I left drama school.
So you did the villain for quite a few years. When did you do your first Dame?
Dame officially was 1995.
And that's been consistent all the way through until now?
Pretty much, yes. And sometimes 2 pantos in a year, because I used to go up to Stornoway in the Outer Hebrides to do panto in January.
How many in the audience in Stornoway?
We were packed every night. It was...
I thought only 3 people lived on Stornoway. There you are. You never know these days, do you?
No, there's about 500 in the house every night.
That's fantastic, isn't it? Mind you, they're probably lacking in entertainment most of the time.
They were starved, yeah.
They were starved.
And when we came, they all came running, you know.
Yeah, they're constantly doing the Kaylee. Yeah, so... This year it's now 2024. If you were to do panto this year, what is that anniversary?
It would work out as 29 years of doing Dame.
29 years?
Yeah, yes.
And you love it, don't you?
I do, but it doesn't get any easier.
Well, is that because you're getting older?
Probably. No, I don't think it is. I mean, the last season I did, I coped with having just got over an eye operation, detached retina, and severe sciatica 5 weeks before. But I got there, and my God, I gave them a run for their money.
Absolutely, and of course I suffer from sciatica too, and I advise you to go on a certain medication, nothing untoward.
No.
Which helped you a lot, which I'm very pleased about.
Yeah.
You know, here, Dr. Sinclair. But no, I'm very pleased that went well, because it's a bit of a trek, because these days, I mean, not only is it, you just don't do a panto round the corner, do you? You've got to go sometimes miles away, and you've got to go into digs. So can you explain to everyone about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, invariably, I mean the pantos I've done over the years, I mean, Bolton, Epsom, trying to think of other far away places. Chesham, Chelmsford, and you are there for 5-6 weeks. Salisbury, I finished in January. I was there for 10 weeks, and it's hit and miss where you stay. You first of all have to find somewhere that's a reasonable amount of money, or it takes up all your wages. You've got to get somewhere that's comfortable, someone that appreciates your lifestyle, and somewhere you can just come back at night and just chill. And I was so lucky in Salisbury. I had the most wonderful landlady called, well, I went through the digs list, and her name was Annie Brocklebank.
You couldn't make it.
You couldn't, and with a name like that, I had to stay there.
Yeah.
And from day one, it was the best.
I remember we were having a couple of conversations when you were away.
Yeah.
That period, because you like to keep in touch with your old mates, don't you?
We rang each other quite a bit.
And all that. Normally, it was walking down the road to go to the pub, which is after work and all that, which I quite understand. But I did ask as well, I said, how's the digs? Because that's what in theatrical terms you call them. You're going into digs. It's an old theatrical expression that means actors that go and stay over when they are working away from home on tour or whatever. And you luckily said to me, she's wonderful.
Yes. Day one, as soon as I walked in, gin in my hand, 2 beautiful cats, attic room. Oh, it was adorable. I loved it.
Worth every penny.
Totally.
So basically, doing that panto was like going on holiday.
Well,
really.
it was an absolute joy, apart from the choreographer.
Not like the last choreographer we did a programme about recently.
Oh, Dear Carol.
Dear Carol, she's very, very good.
Yeah.
Not her, no, she's special, she is.
Yes.
But no, I can appreciate it because, of course, my attitude towards that sort of thing, if you're going to have somebody like that or a director, in anything you do that actually makes you as an actor feel bad or any form of performer, they're not going to get the best out of you.
No, they're not. And they have to work to your strengths. I was talking to Dear Carol Todd about this, and I told her the experience I had in Salisbury, and she said, yeah, I work to the actor's strengths. That's how you get the best out of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hard work.
Yes, but if you make someone feel relaxed, you get far more out of them.
How long is it looking for? If you're going to be doing a panto like I've done at Salisbury, and there for 10 weeks, how long is the rehearsal period?
Well, Salisbury was joyous because it was 3 weeks and then a technical week, which was absolute luxury. Normally, you rehearse a panto, average 9 days.
I was going to say that, about 9 days.
Yes, from getting there to blocking it, learning the dances, learning the music, technical rehearsals, dress rehearsals, 9 days. Which is why you have to turn up knowing it. You must do.
So on this occasion, because it was 3-4 weeks rehearsal before you went on, with the old audience paying their way through and all that, it was more of a relaxing time apart from the choreographer.
It should have been.
Yeah.
I thought, what are we going to do with 3 weeks rehearsal? Because I'm used to just 9 days and getting on and doing it. But I have to say, it brings me back to dear Alexander Bridge, who I started with. He said, often a show is no better in 3 weeks than had it been rehearsed in a week. And that's where I started, weekly rep.
Weekly rep, yes. We'll be back in a moment. And welcome back. Yes, now, the wonderful world of all those years ago that goes back theatrically for, certainly most of the last century, is that wonderful expression, weekly rep.
Yes, yes.
And when did you start weekly rep? And explain what that means.
As soon as I left drama school. We were told at drama school, we had a dear old tutor, John Greenwood, who I remember did all the stage fighting. He was in Doctor Who, actually, the Mind Robbers. Did all the fight. I played D'Artagnan. And he said, lovers fight. Thank heavens we don't have weekly rep anymore. It gets us into bad habits. And I thought, why not? Because surely that's the way theatre has to go now. You employ a company of actors that can do a season, rehearsing one, playing another at night, and you keep your costs down, and you bring your audience in. Okay, it was you were rehearsing things at breakneck speed. Maybe weekly rep was a little bit fraught, as Ronnie Barker said. You don't get tight because you, as soon as you'd finished rehearsals and played a show that night, you had to go home and learn the lines for next week's play. But it kept you on your toes, and it, with his experience, that's what created the character actors we have in this country. And I do ask where the next generation is going to come from.
Exactly. And I always remember a wonderful expression of weekly rep. There's a wonderful Margaret Rutherford, Miss Marple film called Murder Most Foul.
Yes.
And it had a good cast in that, including people that went from that particular area of, weekly rep as it was, into film and television. I mean, you've got people that started out like Michael Caine.
Yeah.
They all did weekly rep.
Yes.
Peter O'Toole.
Yes.
All of that lot.
Yeah.
Richard Burton. They all did weekly rep.
Yeah.
These days, they wouldn't know their arse from an elbow, would they? Because they don't know that. And that's where I believe actors learn their craft.
Totally. And it also produced people that could play anything. You look at someone like Ronnie Barker, who I'll always come back to. He was mercurial. He could play anything. He even made sure every part he played every week looked different physically. That's why he was so wonderful in everything he played. He looked different physically and spoke differently. It created a certain type of performer. People like Judi Dench, they all did exactly the same. Where is that next generation going to come from?
I think it's going to be very rare. Because these days it is, as I've said on many of my programmes, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, is the Warhol 15-minute fame thing. Yes. Everyone can be famous these days. We've all got moving little television studios with us. We can all go on YouTube. We can all do those things these days. So there's no people learning the craft, as I call it, of acting. It is, I might have to act it, meaning they can't actually go into any form of characterisation. They've really got to put it on without actually being natural about it. And I'm a great believer in the naturalisation of character in anything I do, certainly as an actor. And you do obviously on that. And of course, doing panto and all those other things, and musical theatre, it's all a little bit more over-the-top cartoony.
Yes, but it has to be real.
And it has to be reality.
Yes.
Not all weather girls and gladiators.
No. You have to find a reality in it that works for you. Even playing Dame, I need to find a reality there. I need to play it for real so that the audience believe I'm a kindly mum.
Oh, what a lovely sympathetic lot you are. I heard you lot were coming, so I've been shopping till I'm dropping for you at Morrison's. Oh, it's so handy, isn't it? You can't beat it. Their stuffing's cheaper, I can park my skates for free, and I haven't put the meat up in years. What is it they all say about me? I'm ugly. I can't tell that I was born with this face. I'm into what those fortune tellers watching her. She said, oh, don't worry, love, you'll be ugly until you're 50. Then you'll get used to it. Has something occurred of which I have not been informed? What took him? A ghost? It wasn't. It wasn't. Right, we're all going to be friends this afternoon, so all hold hands with the people sitting next to you. Go on. Go on, dear, she won't bite. Go on. Right, are we all holding hands? Right, we will now attempt to contact the living.
I need to play it for real so that the audience believe I'm a kindly mum, moving the plot along. Well, yeah, that's what Dame is.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I always remember a friend of mine, John Pertwee's son, and he told me that John would always say that his dad, who played Doctor Who, of course, Wurzel Gummidge, would say...
Wonderful character actor.
All hide behind the green umbrella. You know, once you become that person. I mean, the one thing he did say, John, was when he did Doctor Who, is he didn't know how to play Doctor Who, so he basically played himself. You know, which is sort of more athletic than he was. He had a terrible back. He had sciatica and all that, bless him. So, you know, Terry Walsh was the one doing all the tumbling bit, and he was the one just standing there with his Carmen rollers on.
And John Pertwee was a superb singer as well.
Oh yeah.
I've got recordings of him playing Fagin. He was in Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Terrific musical theatre performer.
Oh, absolutely. And that is where a lot of people go in, because I remember when I was an agent, I was your agent for a little while, wasn't I? Years ago.
You got me the Real Monty, the tour of Real Monty, 2002. Yes. Yeah. I was watching
over 20 years.
I was watching the new ITV thing Coma, and there was an actor in there called Craig Ells, and I thought, I worked with him in Real Monty, and that was thanks to you.
I remember that Real Monty. I mean, I was very lucky as an agent. I had some very good clients, and they were very good at everything they did. Never really, there was one particular, the main name was one particular client who was so far up his arse, he blew himself out to sea. Those types of people who, which I can't bear, looking down their nose at you and forgetting the team spirit of the whole thing and all that. You can't be dealing with that. But I'm a great believer in certain things that when you've been an agent for somebody or that, it's weirdly, after a long period of time, you still like to keep an eye on what they're doing. And of course, I've kept an eye on you for a long time, but we have been friends for a while.
Well, yes, we have, since 1998.
1998, so it's 25 years or so?
25 years.
With a load of feathers at your arse. Or is it feathers?
Feathers up my ass.
Oh, well, that's the one, isn't it? So
that's the name of my autobiography.
Yeah, this is something that, as actors, we do as our profession, if you want to use that expression. But have you found it that you just can't be an actor, you've got to do other things in life?
Totally. Oh, God, yes. I think gone are the day. I mean, you used to, in the old days, you would do weekly rep, you go into summer season, and then you go into panto. And remember, pantos in the old days used to last a lot longer. Sometimes they would go on until Easter.
Yeah.
I didn't do one of those, but that's the way actors used to work.
Yeah.
But now all the old companies, repertory companies have gone, the old producers have gone, so you have to find other ways of work. And something that I've recently gone into is becoming a funeral celebrant. It's something that had been on my mind for some time, and now I feel I can really make a difference to the community, to help celebrate people that really want to have the essence of their loved one explained.
Well, I'm a great believer, as you know, I'm very stoic about death anyway, and my father unfortunately died a few months, well, just over a month ago. Now we've got the funeral next week. And it is a case of, yes, I knew him all my life. So it's over 6 years I knew that man. I was adopted. But the fact is, you celebrate the life, you don't mourn the death, because there's nothing you can do about bringing them back.
No.
And people that go on about, yes, it's a shame they've gone. They've gone, you can't do anything about it. So let's celebrate them and remember. So I can see you in that role.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we weren't so far away, you'd be doing the service for us.
Well, my first experiences of funerals was my grandfather in a country church in the freezing cold, pouring rain outside, boring old fart of a padre maudling on in a sing-song voice, man is born of God and all this. And I thought, oh, for heaven's sake.
Head to toe in black.
Yes. It looked like something out of Wuthering Heights. And same with my brother-in-law. And I promised my family, when the time should come that either my mother or my father died, I would present the eulogy and speak at their funeral as well as I was able to do it in a positive, upbeat way, and that's what has led me to become a funeral celebrant.
How long does it take to become?
I don't think you ever stop learning. It's like being an actor.
It is an acting job. Really,
It is, but in a different sort of way. It is public presentation, and you've got to be very focused. I have to say, the services I've done, I have been as nervous as hell, simply because I want to do the best I can. I don't want to let the families down. I don't want to stumble over words. I probably rehearse far more
than you would do.
Exactly, yes.
A dance number
yes.
in Latin.
Totally, yes.
Well, it is one of those things. I mean, it is something. Of course, I've played a couple of vicars in my time,
That would be all.
And that would, you can always, you tend to remember people like the late Derek Nimmo and all that sort of thing. I mean, my favourite ever bishop has to be Alistair Simmons reading Clark.
Oh,
which is
yes,
it's just ballet skirt? Why was he wearing a ballet skirt? No, answer me that. That sort of thing is, you can cartoonise it, can't you? And all that, but as long as the character's good. But in the essence of all that rehearsing, see, I totally understand that. Rehearsing to the nth degree to get it right, because I know it sounds daft, it's a once-in-a-lifetime, death-time experience for the person who's in the old box and the family that's looking at it.
And something I want to do and develop is to become a community celebrant that people can call on to really give the essence of their loved one. Yeah.
So there you are. You know that there. If you want a celebrant, that's your man. We'll be back in a moment.
Each time, am I looking good? Oh, I say people! People are here! Lots of lovely boys and girls and mums and dads! Let the lights on and have a good look at you all. Let the dogs see the hair. Go on, put the lights up. Oh no, put them down, I've got a weak heart. No, I'm only joking. Oh, do you know, I heard you lot were coming in, and there you are, waiting patiently for me. Hello, my lovelies. You can talk to me, I'm real. I said, hello, my lovelies. Right, I'll get your attention. Alexa, kindly immobilise all mobile devices in this room.
All mobile devices immobilised, Mrs. Trott.
Thank you, that's got your attention. Oh, I see what a classy bunch you are. Smiling faces, like a sea of flowers. There's the old cactus dotted about, but nevertheless.
One word I'm going to say to you out there is drag. And I don't mean on the cigarette. Explain to us, really, where does drag come from?
Originally, I believe the phrase drag came from a Shakespearean term, the dragging of the skirts, when young boys and men used to play female parts.
Because it was illegal.
Exactly, women weren't allowed in the theatre in Shakespeare's time. So that's what it was, the dragging of the skirts. But it probably became a little bit derogatory when you start, a drag act. And this leads me on to two people I worked with several times, Dear Hinge and Brackett.
Wonderful.
Who to my mind were the epitome of female impersonation and characterisation. You were totally convinced they were two old ladies. Their voices, their singing voices were just perfection. And as a young gay guy coming out at the age of 13, discovering who I was, I learnt all my Gilbert and Sullivan, all my musical theatre through them, because they encapsulated that on the wireless. Now there's a word, the wireless.
Yeah.
Why do they call it a wireless? You look in the back, there's a myriad of wires. But they encapsulated musical comedy and light operetta. And I was very, very lucky to then work with them in later years. First of all, with the late George Logan, doing Murder at the Vicarage on tour. He played Miss Marple brilliantly. And then Years later, 1998, I was at Eastbourne, company manager for them both in Cinderella with Wendy Craig.
Wendy Craig?
Yes, and as company manager I was taking understudy auditions for the dancers, and everyone had an understudy apart from Hinge and Bracket. So what happened on Christmas Day, George rang me and said, I'm awfully sorry, I can't go on tomorrow, I am so poorly. There was no option. I went on myself, literally.
There's a lovely photograph of you.
Yes, there is, yes. And
I'll find out where
I
that
was
is.
very proud to work with dear Patrick Fife.
Who died before George did.
Patrick died in 2002, very sadly.
And George died
last year.
Last year.
Yes.
A great loss. And of course they had the television series, which
Dear
was great,
Ladies.
great, apart from the lovely old theatre they used to do for television, or the old time musicals.
They used several theatres.
Yeah, yeah.
They filmed a lot at Royal Festival Hall, Harrogate, and a lot at Buxton Opera House, where I've played.
Often appeared on the good old days.
Yes, at Suki Varati's Leeds. There's another lovely theatre
and
to
of
play.
course, not to forget Enver Cream.
Yes, Enver Cream Sherry. And they both hated it because it tasted vile, apparently.
My friend Paul Lavers was in that advert with
Oh,
George
which
and
one?
Patrick
Because they did so many.
when he was the barman.
Right.
And apparently it was in a very small set, and he said it was so hot, because they all had the bone of drag on.
Yes.
And he said, I was wearing the white tuxedo thing and all that. He said, it was sweating like no one's business.
There's a lovely line where the Dr. Hin said, could I have a pail? And Hilda says, couldn't you be doing with a glass?
I think it's probably that particular advert.
And another one where Hilda looks at someone's jewellery and she said, paste, dear. And the doctor said, I haven't touched a drop. They were wonderful. They were
can't
perfection.
make them like that anymore.
No,
they
were-
won't allow.
they were
We've all
perfection.
become too woke.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So from the
So I
drag,
learnt a lot from that.
yeah, because that takes you more from the drag into the female impersonation
Yes.
style of it all, which then of course you were able to move into taking
Into
drag and that
Dame.
into Dame.
Yes. Now, I always have said, and Jack Tripp, the late Jack Tripp, always said, Dame should not be drag. But
No.
I went into it in a different area. We moved to Brighton, my partner and myself, my husband and myself, and we had the best drag acts you could ever wish to see. We had Colin Devereux, Dockyard Doris, we had Phil Starr, we had Maisie Trolette, the best, and you would go and see these icons on a Sunday
That's the
afternoon
word,
and
icon.
just learn to perfection of their timing. So I thought maybe it's something I can try and do. I tried, not too successfully, but without that experience I wouldn't have been able to have covered for George Logan, and I wouldn't have got my first Dame, my first proper Dame, and I was given that by a dear friend who we both share in common, John Nathan Turner.
Ah.
Yes.
There's the stuff, which is because recently because you're doing a sort of video memoir.
Yes, we'll come back
aren't
to
you?
the video memoirs as well.
We'll talk about that in a moment, because yes, he and I had a quite a close relationship, put it that way, back in the day on the Doctor Who days, and of course he did panto a lot, and of course gave you your big break
Yes,
as
he
Dame.
did, yes.
Which one was that?
It was Mother Goose at Chesham. Now, Mother Goose is the Dame of all dames because it's the only pantomime written about a dame with a dame as a central character. Wonderful storyline. It was John Inman's favourite dame. And for John Nathan Turner to take a risk on a relatively unknown guy like myself and give him that show with 15 costume changes was a huge leap of faith. I owe a hell of a lot to that man. So what I'm in the process of doing, and you have helped me, is I'm doing a video blog of my time working on that show. And video blogs is something I've done over the last 5-6 years. I think lockdown got me into doing it. It's because I thought writing about something in such in-depth detail, it's not always interesting. Whereas to hear me write about it in infinitesimal detail and to narrate it with photographs and video clips, that makes it interesting. It's almost like a time capsule. So I've done the drama school years, the Alexander Bridge years, the repertory years. I've done working with Hinge and Brackett. I'm just about to do the John Nathan Turner story of working with him in Mother Goose. It's parts of my life that I can write about with it so clearly.
Like a box of chocolates.
Totally, yes.
Little bits.
It's like a time capsule.
I'm very proud to actually ever be asked by anyone at all to do a voiceover, and I've done 2 for you. One was talking about Victor Spinetti.
Ah, yes.
And although I can do a reasonably good Welsh accent, not as strong as Victor Spinetti, we decided to me not doing it because I actually sounded like I'd open a corner shop. And then the next bit you asked me to do was the Chesham years on doing the
John Nathan
pantos
Turner.
from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And it was great fun.
Yeah.
People, I don't know about you about voiceover, because you've got a very great voice. I do enjoy listening to you, certainly when you're doing your blogs and things like that. The fact is that people often, they're all a bit sort of dorsal palm about it, trying to work themselves into doing it. And I said, a voiceover takes as long as it is to read it. You don't have to, even when I was doing that bit of voiceover, only a couple of pages from the book about John, and the other one will remain nameless. If I fluff, I just say, well, I'll just start that one again.
You edit,
I've done it recently when we did Poe, didn't I? When we were doing Poe, and I just said, if I fuck it up, I'll just start from that bit again and just go through it.
Yeah.
But you have a delivery vocally which is far more erudite than my voice. We've got completely different voices because I'm much deeper, but you have a wonderful way of clipping easier than I do. I'm a bit lazy towards it.
I owe that to a wonderful gentleman at drama school because I did have a speech impediment. When I was at college, I couldn't do R sounds, I couldn't pronounce R's.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But that really is now more poignant you say that, because I can always hear that coming out even much stronger than some of the other bits within the vocale you do. And strange, isn't it?
This wonderful man, Brian Shelton, he used to produce direct at Pitlockery, did all the classics at Pitlockery, and he said, "Well, you'll always think about it, love, but you will get over it. You will get over this." Yeah.
And you did.
Yes.
That's the whole thing.
Totally.
When do you think we're going to see this or hear this video?
I was hoping to get it done this week actually, but it's been so busy, but I will get it done.
I have a great favourite, as many people do, and that is Round the Horn. And we could be chocker in here with Hugh Paddock and Cadis Williams.
We could do them all.
We could do the lot. I mean, quite easy to do a Betty Marston as well. But of course, you did the tour and the West End version.
Well, yes, exactly. I think it was yourself that put me onto the show originally.
I think it was when you were in the West End, the first time you did it in the West End.
Yes. When that job came along, it was a dream job, but I couldn't do it because it started off at the White Bear in Kennington. I couldn't do it. I was contracted to do a production of Rocky Horror Show, then into Panto, then into a couple of plays at Chelmsford, and I couldn't do it. I was kicking myself. Then the understudy cover role came up in early 2004. Can you believe they'd taken a show into the West End without covers?
For any of them.
Yes, and because it was such a vocal strain on everyone, so I leapt at the chance and was on stage every night also playing the sound man. And it was a total joy because it went into osmosis. I almost went on as Kenneth Horne one night, which was probably the one wasn't physically right for, but I did a pretty good approximation. Did Williams for a week, did Paddock for a week, and we did the television version. I desperately wanted
the TV version, yeah.
I desperately wanted to do the first tour.
I got free tickets for it when you were in Leicester Square doing it.
That's right.
Right opposite Spotlight, which has now moved.
Yes.
It's now moved from Leicester Square, gone to something cheaper, I think. And I remember going up to see you in it, and you were the soundman on that occasion. You weren't playing in the understudy parts, although you were, with Amanda Lucas, who was also your agent all those years ago.
Yes.
And we came in and we rolled around because we're great aficionados of not just round the hall. Before that, there was also Beyond Our Ken, which elements of both, because it was Barry Took, Marty Feldman, all those writers in those days who really did a wonderful job, and of course
Eric Merriman,
and of course what were the lovely singers called?
Oh, the Fraser Hayes Four.
The Fraser Hayes Four. You should go off and they come on and do this little number and all that.
Yeah.
Which they didn't appear in the stage version, I remember, because it was, we were all standing in front of a microphone. But I remember seeing that, and it was absolutely fantastic to see that great transfer to the stage. And even these days, in 2024, you listen to them and they still stand up so well.
Yes, they do.
They really are good. They are as good today, and if you want a good laugh, the innuendos, and the BBC executives had no idea.
No. Well, as Kenneth Horne said, if we see an innuendo, we whip it out.
Absolutely, and that's the way to do it, yeah, round the horn. And then we come on to, from that, that toured as well, didn't it?
Yes, I was very lucky because I'd done London, I played, got to play Williams and Hugh Paddock, almost went on for Kenneth Horne. I even read in for Betty Marsden at the auditions. They made me...
Oh, Charles.
Oh, Fiona, you're back, yes, to mind scratching it.
We could get bookings.
They even... Yes, for parking. They even made me read in for all the other auditionees. I had to fight like mad to get the tour, and they still didn't give it me because Brian Cook said, well, you might not be right for any of the parts, but you're the best one we got that can play all of them. So, high praise indeed.
Just goes to show, doesn't it? They never know when the best side of the bread is buttered, do they?
But then I got Hugh Paddock on tour, and we did various versions. We did the version 1, version 2, and the Christmas version. So I think I got the best deal out of it.
You just remind me of something. A little while ago, Mr. Rumelle and I were actually coerced, I think is the word, to go into something at Goodwood.
Oh, yes.
And
you've got a memory like an elephant, haven't you?
And we did Keith Williams and Hugh
yes.
As I think
Jewel and Sand.
It was Jewel and Sand. Was I Kenneth Williams or Hugh Paddock?
You were Kenneth Williams.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was. And we literally walked round in a couple of... We looked like a couple of green coats, didn't we?
Yes,
It was
green
a green
blazers.
coat, green blazers. And apparently we had people wetting themselves.
That's right. And we went into the Tesco store and sprayed ourselves with Brute, I remember.
And apparently, according to the costume, she said, where the hell have you been? So we've been bathing in Brute, dear. Because it was all that. We just go in there all the time.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Kenwood Chef set?
Yes, on the Revolve.
Tell us about the Kenwood Chef.
Well, Goodwood Revival, it was all these recreations of famous 60s iconic TV things. And there was this set made of like a cookery set on a Revolve. So there we were, you and I, on this Revolve that came round. It was like Sunday night at the London Palladium.
Yeah.
And we were there, we were camping it up as Jewel and Sand, and I grabbed this bottle, which I thought was water, glugged it back, handed it to you, and of course it was Kirsch.
And we were... That's a bit of a
So we had some more.
We had some more. But that was so funny because that was just straight off the cuff. We didn't even know. We didn't know what to... But apparently we went down so well. They wanted us to go back, and we decided, no, we're not going to go back there again.
No,
because it was somewhat...
Let them leave them wanting more.
Yes, somewhat tiresome. Because the lady in charge was... Tyson.
Yes.
That's all I can say
Yeah.
about it. That was a happy memory. Thank you for bringing
was.
that back.
Yeah.
Now, of course, not only that, we're trying to talk about care now. You know, because we can't do it 52 weeks or 7 days a week, because you've got to do something else to keep the wolf from the door. And you went into caring for others.
Yes.
As I did too, which
Yes.
is really weird. I mean, I used to do the more autistic side of things. You were doing
I did the artistic side.
the artistic side, more older friends
Yes.
and all that.
Yeah.
So that's quite weird that we are in similar circumstances as actors, but we've done a similar sort of thing out of the acting fraternity. Tell us all about your...
Well, when we moved down here, it took us a long time to find where we now live, and I did an awful telephone fundraising job, which I almost had a nervous breakdown doing it. And then my husband Michael said, well, why don't you try care work? And I
But he
did.
worked in care work.
Michael did,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So I went into working in a rest home, went to various care agencies, of which were sometimes differing in their quality.
We all know that, yeah. We've all been there. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, and I had some very bad experiences as well. Even one of them, because I used to have a phobia of blood and things like that, and I was penalised.
Sputum.
Yes, I was penalised in this care agency for actually passing out in the first aid class, which is perfectly natural. You know, these days I would have had counselling and help over it.
Oh,
no,
not in
nothing,
those days.
not in those days.
No.
But the highlight, if it can be a highlight, that's the wrong word. I was looking after a dear lady with advanced dementia in her own home, and I was there when she passed away, and I was able to give her the respect she deserved.
As you do, because I trained as a nurse back in the late 70s in the new peace strike, so that's where my medical side comes out, and then ended up in more recent times as a COVID specialist before I went on to care for the autistic. Now, I mean, I'm well too with my mobility problems and all that to do that sort of thing, because I couldn't run after them, David, I couldn't run after them. Mind you, I'll probably be the one in bed. You'll have to come and care for me. You know what I mean? But that's the fact.
We know how to take a temperature, but
that's a fact. Yeah, well, it depends where you're going to take the temperature, darling, isn't it?
I also had the great honour of looking after dear Dora Bryan
God rest her
for
soul.
a few months.
Great friend of Carol Todd's.
Yes, before she went into a nursing home, and she was a joy because I was told she doesn't want to talk about her theatre life, but I went in as a carer, and then she opened up to me, and we became good friends, and she felt she could talk to me because she knew about my acting background. So,
and of course,
lovely
when
lady.
she went into the home, but she was well looked after too. Carol
Yes, she
used to go
was.
around and unfortunately Dora got worse and worse and worse, and actually thought she was in a rehearsal room with slips on the bed, which it does happen, you know, and all that. But I mean, if the thought of that actually, if you know, oh poor, you know, she's doing at least something she's happy about.
Yes, yeah.
That's the point.
And it's all about respect and choices, making people feel comfortable and respecting their choices.
And this brings me on to, over the years I've known you, and we go back, we've done a couple of films together.
Yes, we did.
And we did one called The Pink Pussycat.
Yes.
Which I played Jack the Ripper.
Yes. How many times do I have to say it? It is His Royal Highness.
Good evening, Your Royal Highness.
Your Royal Highness, how well do you know the Whitechapel area?
No.
Whilst I was patrolling around the Whitechapel area last night, I spotted a figure very much of your stature, shall we say, loitering outside that den of iniquity known as the Pink Pussycat. Can you explain your reason for being there?
No.
Well then, can you account for your movements between the hours of 10 and 12 last night?
No.
Sir, Your Highness,
1888, and it was a 48-hour thing. You were there with David Burton and
yes.
Sophie, who's just recently done the film with.
Yeah.
And it got in the top 10 anyway, put it that way.
We did well.
But that, we did well, and it was
Beautifully
completely
filmed as well.
improvised. And then recently we've just done another one, which I keep on getting, because it was a series of Wind. We did Face of the Wind. You're not in that one. And then we did another one, Blowing in the Wind.
Yeah.
And Sophie's in that one too, with
Yeah.
Betty and the wonderful Murray. I got a little cameo in it.
Yeah.
There's another Sophie in it. They got confusing. And of course, you played the most evil, smiley drug dealer I've ever seen.
Dennis,
All right.
you can sit there. You can, right?
Yeah, sure.
Cheers. So,
See, he's quick, he's efficient. Unlike you,
They're strong.
I like it strong.
I can't give you all of them. I need some myself.
Nuh-uh. Okay, can you give him to me now?
Well, what do I sort of get in return?
What do you mean, what do you get in return? Come on.
You tell me.
What do you mean?
Well, what do I get in return? You know, they don't just come free for nothing.
What do you want?
You tell me.
What do you want? You want us to go quiet?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be back.
I didn't set out to do it that way. I just...
It was brilliant.
I looked at it the other night and I thought, I probably didn't set out to do it that way.
But it worked.
But I just did it with sincerity and...
But it worked. I'm looking, when I first saw it, I went, do you know, that's so smarmy and all that. And I said, God, he's acting bloody socks off of me. And because it just came across so well. I love shows, because I mean, you know, I do a lot of these shows and I do a lot of films for Zelica and all that. And I love the director Stephen and all that. We came up with an idea. That, all right, now David, you're full of ideas, aren't you, David? So we thought, got any ideas about doing a film then, David? Because you've got so much buzzing around your head. I don't know how your attention learning lines is fabulous. I can't do it. You're brilliant at it. I'm not.
Never gets any easier, but...
It gets worse, yes. Yeah. I've got off the precipice of that one. I'm right over the top. There, just write it down, put it in front of me. I'll have the paper auto cue, please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But you recently, Stephen asked you to come up with a premise for a new thing.
Yeah.
And now tell us,
Well,
don't give too much detail
no.
out because we want to make it this summer.
It's only a premise, but I wanted to encapsulate all I've done with doing panto, rep, the hazardous nature of having to do other things, and care work. And
Bit like the show.
Yes, and this brings me back to what I was telling you about the first aid lesson where I passed out and was penalised. I told myself I wanted to do something where it's very easy for someone to get on the wrong side of the care profession and be penalised for it due to circumstances beyond their control.
And what's it called?
I've given it a working title as Needs Must.
And I've read it. Not only did I have to read it, I didn't have to read it. Luckily, what did you do?
Well, I did it, I read it so that you could hear what it sounded like.
And I was just...
Needs a lot of work doing.
Yeah, but no, it's a one. And you wrote that apparently in one afternoon, start to finish, and didn't stop.
Yes, I been to the eye hospital and just sat in the pub and wrote it.
How's
and kept
the eye
going
now,
and going.
then? No.
It's getting better.
It's getting better. It just goes to show, doesn't it? We're going to be hopefully, aren't we? Going to be talking about that in a moment. But we are actually now coming to the end of my programme. Thank you, David,
Thank
my
you.
darling
It's been
friend.
an absolute joy.
Absolute. We've been
you.
friends for so long,
Yes.
and long may we reign.
And here's to many. Yes, and here's
Long
to
may
many
we
more.
reign. Could be a couple of old queens. aren't we? So I'd like
Here's
to
to
thank
many
you.
more years, my love.
Thank you for inviting us into your flat, and it has been a great thing to watch and hear all you've got to say about it, and hopefully, needs must.
Thank you.